This is a Film Stories original podcast.
We made this.
So, Brooker, the idea of the mind's eye or remote vision, I don't think anyone would want to see through somebody's eyes 24/7, but is there any moment in time you would have liked to have experienced that way?
You know what? Actually, I would have liked to have been able to see through someone else's eyes the moment that La La Land accidentally won Best Film and then didn't.
And that was so bizarre. But yeah, the moment when the guy's eyes saw what was actually on the card, yeah. Moonlight, right?
Yeah. That
guy, the producer,
yeah.
Or whoever it was.
Absolutely, I would have killed to have seen that from that point of view. That would have been amazing and terrifying. I'm so glad it wasn't me.
Yes. Well, I'm a big space geek, so the concept of seeing the first moon landing through Neil Armstrong's eyes would totally be amazing.
That would be kind of cool.
And we might reference this idea a little later, but the CIA in the 70s put a lot of money into investigating the idea of remote vision, and apparently some people had said they visited Mars.
Wow, okay.
Okay, so I don't know how you quantify or prove that, but it's very X-Files-y, I think. Welcome back to the X-Cast. The truth is in here. I'm your host, Paige Schector, and today we'll be talking about Mind's Eye, episode 16 of season 5 of The X-Files. It's one of my favorites, with one of my favorite guest stars, Lily Taylor, and helmed by my favorite director, Kim Manners. But before delving into that, I'd like to introduce fellow X-Caster Andrew Brooker and get his overview on the episode. So, hello, Brooker! What's your opinion of Mind's Eye?
I really like it. I really like it. But I tell you what, it's a strange episode for me because I've watched it. I've watched it twice in the last couple of hours, and the thing for me is, it doesn't feel like an X-Files episode. It feels like a regular old procedural cop show kind of episode that went a little bit left at the screenwriting process. What I mean is, it feels like one of those dodgy CSI episodes that you used to get once a season.
Where it goes kind of off the rails, right?
Yeah.
And I wonder if that is, and a lot of people feel that way but don't like the episode because of that reason. Is it because there's not much of a Mulder and Scully dynamic, other than Mulder doing his traditional trying to protect a young woman who doesn't have control over what's happening to her thing, and Scully's doing normal things like she's finding evidence the police overlooked and she's revealing blood test results, but there aren't really aspects unique to the X-Files as we've come to know it.
No, well, this is it. And I think that it's a breath of fresh air, and one of those episodes, in one of those good points in the season where it's a break from the norm, if you like. I really like stuff like that, and I like it when you just throw a spanner in the works, especially when you're on a binge. And you go, you get an episode that just kind of slows it down a little bit for you and just becomes a regular old procedural. And I think a lot of people won't like it for the exact same reason I do. And yeah, because it's not a standard X-Files episode.
Right. I personally think it also shows how malleable the concept is and should be, But then again, I'm one of those people who think the X-Files can go on without Mulder and Scully, so I'm in sort of a minority here.
Well, I'm in that minority with you, I think. But I think you're right. It shows, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, aliens or monsters or whatever, they're still FBI agents, and they still have, regular old jobs they have to do. And this is a regular old job. It just turned out to be, not quite as regular as I thought it was going to
be. Yeah, not quite as regular. Okay. Mind's Eye was Tim Minear's second and final episode for the show after Kitsunagari, which is episode 8 of this same season. And he went on to write and produce for Angel, Firefly, Dollhouse, and American Horror Story, among many others. And these are all shows that kind of probably attract a lot of attention from our fan base.
Yeah, that's not a bad CV to have built after working on the X-Files.
And he wanted Lily Taylor to play Marty Glenn right away, which I understand because she's always excellent in everything. People might remember her from Mystic Pizza, and which starred Julia Roberts and the future agent Monica Reyes, Annabeth Gish. And she was also excellent in Say Anything and Dogfight and I Shot Andy Warhol. She was kind of an independent film it girl for a while, and right around this time when Mind's Eye came out. So she was thought not to be interested in TV guest star roles, but she was a fan of the show like many before her, and her people had even contacted the Los Angeles casting director Rick Milliken. Milliken said in the show's official episode guide that 2 or 3 weeks before this script was finished, her management called to express her interest in doing the show. And so when Mind's Eye was written and submitted, it sounded like a perfect fit, and I think it is.
Oh, yeah.
Brooker, were you a Lily Taylor fan before she appeared on the show?
I don't think fan would be the right word. I definitely knew who she was. What I recognised her from would have been the year before, I think, would have been the Mel Gibson film Ransom.
Ah, yes.
Which I adore, and I think she is amazing in that movie. But literally, I would have watched the episode, 98, I would have been 16. I'd have watched that episode and gone, oh, it's her from Ransom. That literally would have been it. Would have been everything I had to say about the matter would have been, it's her from Ransom. So a fan beforehand, probably not, but I thought she was great in Ransom, and I like her a lot in this episode.
Have you watched her in things since the X-Files?
Oh, for sure. For pretty much everything you've listed off, I've seen, and really, whether or not I've enjoyed the films, I've enjoyed her in.
Right.
But she is a phenomenal actress. Did she won an award for this episode, didn't she?
She got her first Emmy nomination for playing Marty, and then since then she's received 2 more Emmy nominations for 6 Feet Under and American Crime Story.
Oh yeah, she was in 6 Feet Under. Oh, yeah. I did forget
I don't think that character is very popular, though.
No, she's not.
Okay, let's talk about some of the specifics of the episode, like Kim Manner's amazing opening shot, and we see Marty Glenn from overhead. It's the viewpoint of a mirror up high in the rundown apartment building where she lives. And then that same shot is later mirrored again when, spoiler alert, her dad is coming after her and he enters the building, climbs the same stairs.
Yeah.
It's one of my very favorite shots or 2 of my very favorite shots in the episode.
I think, yeah, it is a really good one. It's not quite my favourite. My favourite one comes a little bit later on. I won't spoil it.
Okay, do your favorite now.
Oh, it's when her dad's watching her from the fence when she's getting put into the van, the police van.
Right.
And she is amazing. Like, you can see on her face, she's realising what it is that she's seeing. Obviously, she's seeing her. And she just kind of instantly portrays that shock, surprise, and out-and-out fear in the 2 minutes that she's doing it on screen, and it's absolutely brilliant.
There are so many great moments. Now, that particular one is a great set piece because you have, like, the chains are rattling and the images, the way they shoot this, it's sort of staccato and it's coming at you. And what I love about how they film the visions she's seeing is that it kind of takes your own brain a second or 2 to figure it out. Like, you're not really comfortable and you have to make heads or tails of what's going on, and it's perfect for the episode.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And that I was going to get to this later, but there are a lot of people to credit for that besides, of course, Kim Manners. Visual effects supervisor Laurie Kelson George created the nature of the visions, the sort of halting mechanism by which they use it. And of course, editor Casey Rohrs also got an Emmy nomination for this episode, and the visions had to have factored into that.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, for editing, no doubt about it, because he would have had to have got that kind of weird, wavy, hallucinogenic feel to it every time that she was seeing through someone else's eyes. Yeah, it absolutely would have been, mainly editing, I would have called that.
Now, one of the things I appreciate about Marty is she is not your typical X-Files type victim. She's got a pretty smart mouth on her. She's smoking. And if you ran across her in the course of your normal day, you would probably find her immensely unlikable.
She's an arsehole.
But Mulder likes her.
Well, I'd say no more. I think he maybe relates to her a little bit, kind of, because she's put up, the arsehole facade, the smart aleck remarks, all that. That's Mulder through and through, isn't it?
It is.
It's the
it's a female Mulder.
Yeah, it is. It's the defense mechanism that they both have up against, so they don't show. For her it'd be her weakness, her very obvious weakness of being blind, and for him, so many weaknesses that he's hiding behind it. It's the same defense mechanism that Mulder has, and I think he can see that.
Yes, he calls it her angry young blind girl comedy routine, but he has a sort of an angry young my sister was abducted by aliens comedy routine, doesn't he?
Yeah, he's a bit angsty in himself, really, isn't he?
Yes, yeah. Well, Mulder is nothing if not angsty, but according to Pennock, he is one skeptical guy.
Well, yeah, that was a new one.
That is one of my favorite lines of the entire series. And not just him saying it, but the way David Duchovny reacts to it. He says,
really?
Skeptical. I've been called a lot of things, but skeptical is not one of them. And then he does this scoff. It's almost like he takes a triple take at his "You are one." It's really worthy of the moment. But again, I jumped around. Speaking of great lines. In the angry young blind girl comedy routine, do you have a favorite or a couple of favorite things that she says?
Oh, you put me on the spot. I did chuckle pretty much every time she was talking about anything. I don't think so. I couldn't name one off the top of my head. Is the honest answer.
Okay, well I'll name some of them, and you tell me which you prefer.
Go on.
Then. Okay, so when she can tell Detective Pennock's in the room, she says, "It's not magic, it's your crappy cologne."
Yes.
And she says things like, "So I'm all ears," and "Why is he hiding? It's not like I can see him." And, or as an eyewitness, when she's asked about the murder. And when asked why she was at the motel, she was putting mints on pillows. Yeah. So there are a few of them there.
I do, the cologne one did make me chuckle.
The crappy cologne. I like when she calls Pennock stinky as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the cologne one is quite an old joke, really, isn't it? Pretty much any time you've had a blind person in a TV show or a film, that joke's been pulled, but it's still a classic. And it is still very funny, and I did like it a lot.
It does. And then there are a couple great moments with the police officers. She has to use the phone, and then she tries to get the police officer away from her. And he gives her a bad hand to arm gesture there, and
they get the same to you. Yeah.
Same to you. And then later, she's picking up her personal effects and checking out her wallet. These better still be 20s. Yeah. And he says no, he replaced them with 50s because she's so damn sweet.
Yeah.
Those are fun moments where it's more than, ordinary go and pick up your personal effects and, boring procedural stuff.
Yeah. So, it's 100% Kim Manners putting his little bits of humour in, because it's not a typical Kim Manners-esque episode. It certainly doesn't feel like a typical Kim Manners-esque episode, but the comedy that's in it really is.
It's very sharp.
Yeah.
And then, speaking of sharp, because there were bloody gloves involved, of course we're going to have some requisite O.J. Simpson references. So, Marty puts on the gloves. Somewhere Marcia Clark weeps. And, of course, Mulder, even if the gloves do fit, you can still acquit.
Yeah.
Which, according to David's Vanity Fair cover story, that was an on-set improvisation by him, and I can back it up because I have several versions of the Mind's Eye script, and it's never in there. So I'm crediting David for that one.
Nice.
Also, I want to give some credit to Blue Mankuma, who played Detective Pennock, and we've previously seen him on the show. Do you remember?
Oh, God, no. I couldn't name that one.
Okay, so it was the first season, Ghost in the Machine, episode 6, and he played the computer expert Claude Peterson.
Oh, wow. Yeah, if I'd have had a million guesses, I wouldn't have got that.
We could have sat here. No, he wasn't in Unrequited. No, no, it wasn't Never Again. But my favorite line of his is when he says she was doing a Formula 409 at the crime scene. And I've been waiting to ask you this. Do you know, does the Formula 409 reference mean anything to you? Or?
No idea.
Okay, that's a cleaning solution.
Okay.
So we're familiar with Formula 409 in the States from commercials. And I thought that might be one of those instances where it kind of, like Reggie bars, where it kind of goes over a segment of the population's heads. But those of us who know Formula 409 is a cleanser are like, that is awesome.
Yeah, it is one of those, you get it on a lot of TV shows where the joke just goes over your head because it's a pop culture reference essentially, isn't it? That not everyone can get. No, I had no clue, and literally as you spoke, I've googled it and I go, if they'd have said Clorox, I probably would have got it.
Yes, but they don't belabor it, so it's not
No.
it's not really important and doesn't ruin anybody's enjoyment of the show to get it or not. It's just something that part of us will get and some won't get.
Yeah, God no, it didn't take away from the episode because I didn't get the joke. I just assumed it was a police thing and moved on.
Oh, like a code.
Yeah.
Okay, she was doing a code, Formula 409. I like that.
It could have been crime scene cleanup or something. It could have been absolutely anything. I'd have just gone, yeah, all right. I'd have believed whatever you said at that point. So I don't know.
Okay, so you didn't get that moment, but what are some of the ones in the episode where you just sat back and went, "Wow, this is something really good"?
Well, okay. So my favourite bit for that was probably when they're doing the polygraph. And the first time the guy running the polygraph says the word "see" and she has the reaction, and obviously we all know that it's a reaction because she did see she did see the murder and she did see what happened. But obviously he's in that moment. This guy's absolutely just puckered up butthole because he just said completely the wrong word to a blind person. I think it's amazing, and I think if it had just had a change just a touch, I think it could have been one of the funniest moments in the episode. It needed to be a really laugh out loud moment, but as it was really kind of cringy and, oh God, you didn't just say that. Amazing.
That was a very awkward polygraph test because, we know from watching procedurals that you can only say yes or no, and there was so much other commentary going on. How did he get a baseline for if she was lying or not?
Well,
there was so much discussion going on.
But this is it, and like you say, every procedural that we've watched ever, from X-Files to CSI to everything, you bring a polygraph into it, and it turns into a story driving process. It's not actually a proper polygraph test with yes or no because everybody talks all the way through it. And the only time I think that would probably be different would be Squeeze when when Toombs gets polygraphed, because he actually does just answer yes or no. But that changes obviously because you've got the different questions going back to 19 or whatever.
Right. Mulder comes up with the best polygraph questions.
He does. I want him polygraphing me if I ever get into trouble.
Yeah, whenever he got censured and wasn't able to do his regular duties, they totally should have put him into the polygraph department. He's excellent at it. Okay, let's see. One of my favorite moments is so simple and subtle. It's just when she's talking to Mulder and she's lighting a cigarette and he's helping her and her hand just grazes his. It's just this very sweet moment. And we get And we've seen this a few times before, that Mulder has this affinity for helping women, especially those that don't want his help. And it doesn't have anything to do with Samantha. It's just something he feels he has to do, even if it's like lighting a match for a blind woman.
Yeah, and I think it's one of the reasons that a lot of us really like Mulder as well, because it's kind of, I don't know, kind of old school chivalry that I really like. Wish I could do that. I can't. I can't be like that.
You have no old school chivalry.
No, apparently not. No, it just doesn't work.
You totally would light a match for a blind woman.
I would try, I suppose, and hope that...
If she would, you would probably light her hair on fire. So maybe we would get out of hand.
The thing is, I'd end up being completely politically incorrect by, making sure she was blind first. And you look like a bit of an arsehole just kind of waving in front of them to make sure that they need your help. You can't see it, but I'm actually waving as I say that.
I'm glad no one did that in the X-Files. How many shows have you watched where people tries to find out if somebody's blind by running their hand?
What is it? Kind of waving and in a kind of at an angle as well, as a comedy. Hello. I'd get into so much trouble. Chivalry right out the window as I'm running, being chased by 30 people who think I'm just doing it to be offensive.
You are one skeptical guy, Brooker.
Sadly, I have been called that a lot, so that's where me and Mulder do differ.
Okay, you can go. Name another aspect of this episode that you really liked.
Okay, another aspect I really liked. I tell you what, and it's kind of maybe a bit of an obvious one, but I liked when. Well, maybe let's do two parts. So there's Mulder when he's in the cell with Marty, just kind of chatting to her and just trying to get a feel for her, and then more so when she's in prison and they're talking through the glass, and he's explaining that they've worked out who he is, and how that's the connection that he's got to her.
Right.
It's the chemistry between those two. So the way kind of they bounce off each other. She seems really emotionally affected by what he's saying, and Mulder's just being Mulder. He obviously he cares. He gives a shit, and he gives a shit about everybody. But he's not just doing it because it's his job. He's doing it because he cares and he wants to make sure the right things are done. And she's
he's politically correct.
And he's politically correct about it. But it's not just that, because she spent most of the episode just being this arse who's, put up this front because she needs to. She spent her whole life having to put this front up to people, and she just kind of, towards the end, drops it around him. And I really like that moment between those two. I think it's great.
Right, because it's earned. Mulder earned it.
Exactly.
It wasn't just something given. It's not just something to move the script along. It's a trust that Mulder fostered by being the way he is.
Yeah, by doing what he does and just by being him and not giving up and not just accepting her word for it, knowing there's more to it, and going against the police's wishes and her wishes, and just making sure that the right thing was done in the end. And I think that's a great moment for the pair of them.
I think it's interesting to think about why it is that Marty continues to do what she's doing. I mean, we can't imagine what it's like to be gone through life as a blind person, let alone seeing all these visions of this terrible, terrible guy who turns out to be Daddy.
Yeah.
The worst daddy since cigarette smoking, man.
Absolutely.
But why doesn't she do something to help herself? What do you think?
I would say, I think, and like you said, it's not impossible. There must be people there are people that have been blind since birth and know how to live with it. I can't imagine having to live with that. But worse than that, like you say, can you imagine the only thing you've ever seen is what this guy does to other people? It's not like she had sight for 5 years and then lost it, so she's got an idea of what some things look like. Her only idea of what things look like is through his eyes. I mean, how would you fight against that? How would you try and do the right thing against that? There must be so mentally affecting. You know, it doesn't matter how hard you think you are. It doesn't matter how tough you've become by getting to 25, 30 years old and never having, you know, dealt with an entire life of not seeing. If that's all you've ever seen in your life, that must be absolutely terrifying.
And with no one there to tell you different, to want differently for you. It's just so sad to me when she goes back to jail, and that final shot is amazing. They call lights out at the jail. Mulder's leaving, and if you're watching really closely, she backs away.
Yeah.
And so we have just the iron bars, which is a gorgeous jail cell. It's a gorgeous looking jail cell, if you ask me. Anyway, but the iron bars and darkness, and she's no longer there, and now we're sort of in her darkness, and I love the way it ends.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me run through some of Lili Taylor's connections to the show, and then we'll get to our mailbag.
Cool.
Beyond being in Mystic Pizza with Annabeth Gish, future star of The X-Files, she was a drama school classmate of Gillian Anderson's.
Okay.
And then we were talking about the chemistry between David and Lily. They actually made a movie together a few years later. Did you ever see that one?
No.
It was called The Secret. It was released in 2007, and I don't think it really took full advantage of their bond. All the moments you were talking about, that I was just talking about, I don't really feel it in the movie, so I was initially really excited to see it, and then kind of disappointed to see it. I think I should give that another chance, though.
Yeah, it's always worth a revisit if you outwardly hated it, it's probably not worth it, but if you were never quite sure, always worth giving it a second go. I'll add it to my list of films I have to watch.
Definitely. Okay, let's read our mailbag. From our esteemed leader, Tony Black, says, never been a big fan of this one. Always found Lili Taylor's character annoyingly unlikable, though Taylor gives a fine performance. Beyond that, eminently forgettable.
It does not surprise me one little bit that me and Tony have disagreed on this episode. But I'm glad that we kind of see this Lili Taylor in the same kind of light, more or less.
Okay, Adam Silva responded to Tony and gave his own impression at the same time, so I'll read that one next. I think that was the point of the writing/performance, though, that she wasn't necessarily likable and didn't fit into the blind woman stereotype you might otherwise see. Overall, it's so-so, but Taylor is great as usual. It's also a rare standalone where it's not the killer who has a paranormal ability.
He's got a point. It has got a point. It's not every episode that it's the victim-ish that's also got the gifts or whatever we have in that particular episode. So yeah, I think Adam's got a bit of a point.
Yes. I want to go back to Tim Minear for a minute, because when he decided to go with this idea of remote viewing, he came up with the idea of the person being blind, and he wanted to make his character the anti-Audrey Hepburn. Anyone who's ever seen the great film Wait Until Dark will get that reference.
Yeah.
In the 1967 movie, she's a blind woman terrorized by men looking for something in her home, and she's the sweetest thing ever, and Marty is kind of his anti-Susie. So I think, like Adam said, it really was the point of the episode. She'd be a complete douche nozzle, you know.
I love that saying.
Michael Little, I think this is a solid episode and Taylor gives a good performance. Having said that, I do think they could have picked a more sympathetic and likable actress. I wish I felt more for her than I do. Still, this is a fairly well done standalone with some nice acting by David. You know, reading Michael's comments made me think back to Mystic Pizza, and say Marty was played by one of the other two leads. Julia Roberts. Okay, you have Julia Roberts, Annabeth Gish, and Lili Taylor.
Yeah.
Who would you cast as Marty?
Oh,
Brooker?
no, Lili Taylor.
It's got to be. I agree.
Absolutely. I do think. I don't know. Maybe I just see too much into it. I think the point is that she's supposed to be that unlikable character, and I think that's what actually makes Lili Taylor the perfect person to do it, because she can pull off the attitude. She can pull off that frankness about it, and I think she is amazing in doing it. I don't particularly want smiley, happy Julia Roberts doing it.
No, me neither.
No person that's been blind their entire life, and the only thing they've ever seen is what turns out to be their dad killing people, is going to be able to be that smiley. It's not a right fit for that character, I don't think.
Right, so she needed to be strong, but she needed to be brittle, sort of, as well. And I think Lily really pulls it off.
Yeah, I think she does.
Okay, 2 more mailbags. Paulette Janian said, "This is one of many episodes I enjoy watching many times over. I like the acting and the story." And then, completely on the other side, Aunt Lizzie to Maggie Mulder on Twitter says, "I've never liked this episode. No particular reason, just never got into it."
Fair enough.
I love the no particular reason part.
Just didn't like it.
Just didn't like it. Maybe it's that old, you need some Mulder and Scully in it.
Yeah, it is an interesting episode when you compare it to most other X-Files, even the more run-of-the-mill kind of procedural episodes of the X-Files. It is one of the, for want of a better word, blander episodes. Like, nothing happens in this episode. Nothing's resolved. Nothing changes in the 45 minutes that the episode's on for. It is a very much nothing episode. It's all about the performances and all about the people in it. And I think that's what makes it actually a good episode.
Yeah, it makes it very special. I'd much rather watch this than Teso dos Bichos,
yes.
or something with chupacabras in it.
Please God, I will take 1,000,000 of these over Excelsius Day any day.
Any Excelsius Day. Okay, before we wrap up, did you have anything else you wanted to cover from Mind's Eye?
I don't think so. Because it's such an easy episode to watch and such an easy episode to talk about, I think we've pretty much covered everything just in general chit-chat, haven't we? It's one of those episodes there's not that much really to unpick in it, I don't think.
Right, there's no deeper meanings in what we're seeing.
No, there's no subtext in anything. There's none of that. It's just a fun little side episode
with one hell of a guest performance in it.
Absolutely, one of the better guest performances, I think.
I always run her up there with the best that we have, all of the entire run of the series. Lily Taylor's going to be in my top 5. Probably top 5 or top 10. She's definitely in there.
Yeah, for sure. She's absolutely amazing in this episode.
Okay, let me see if I have anything. Oh, I have one little trivia note. From here on out, Gillian Anderson is in every single X-Files episode.
Okay.
Because the one before, I guess, was Travelers, and she wasn't in that. So, from Mind's Eye to the end of the run, she's in them all.
I did briefly think that someone had something very horrific against people and their eyes watching this. I watched this episode, and then when I was doing a few notes and that, let the next episode play on, and of course the next episode starts with burnt out eyeballs, which was just lovely. Honestly, I thought for a second I'd just fallen asleep and then looked at the TV and then something horrible happened.
Oh, I also wanted to mention her response when she gets to the dumpster and she opens the dumpster and she touches, and the thing she wants to find least in the dumpster is this woman's body. The look that comes over Lily Taylor's face is amazing. I mean, that's why they needed Lily Taylor, and that's why they got her.
Yeah.
And that's why she got the Emmy nomination.
Absolutely. Of all the things you would want to touch in a dumpster...
And there are so few things we actually want to touch in a dumpster.
Exactly, especially in a city dumpster.
That's going to be at the top of my list, I think. Bloodied body.
Well, yeah, I'll take anything else, I think, over a dead body. Or I take whole dead body over pieces of a dead body, I think.
You don't want to be doing any Formula 409ing, do you?
Oh, no, absolutely not. It's not my bag at all.
All right, on that cleansing note, I'd like to thank Brooker so much for discussing Mind's Eye with me, and let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
I pretty much only hide in one place on social media. I'm on Twitter. I'm at Brooker411, where I spend most of my free time just ranting about stuff that's annoyed me that particular day. I rarely say anything seriously. It tends to just be me shouting into the void. But if you're into following stuff like that, yeah, That's where you can find me.
It says it's Brooker 411, not Brooker 409.
No, not Brooker.
Get it right.
409.
I'm in the midst of a complete series rewatch blog with my sister called Sibling Cinema on Blogger. As of this recording, we are actually on the episode Mind's Eye, so symmetry is wonderful.
Not bad timing.
We post on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and Pinterest. So look for sibling_cinema or sibling-cinema, and you're bound to come across us. Thanks so much for tuning in, and remember, as always, trust no one.
The Xcast, an X-Files podcast, is produced and hosted by Tony Black, alongside a dedicated team of podcasters and X-Files fans. You can find the show on Twitter at the X_cast, on Facebook by typing in the Xcast, or inside our group, the X-Files Basement, an Xcast podcast fan group, plus on Instagram by typing in the XFcast. If you're a fan of the show, why not support us on Patreon? Exclusive bonus episodes, early access to new episodes, plus become part of our Xcast community in the Patreon department. To see our monthly subscription options, just head to patreon.com/the Xcast. That's patreon.com/the Xcast. We'd love to see you join our Patreon community. We're also part of the We Made This podcast network at We Made This Pod on Twitter and We Made This on Facebook. You can find a range of shows on TV, film, music, and popular culture in general on the network. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time. Previously on the We Made This network. Without a mouse.
We're joined by a very special guest today. He is the voice of Kai in Frozen 1 and 2. He was the co-director of the 2011 Winnie the Pooh movie, director and official Disney villain from Meet the Robinsons, and currently working at Disney Television Animation. It is Stephen Anderson.
Hey, how's it going, Tim?
And what is the show called?
The show's called Monsters at Work. It's a sequel/spin-off series of Monsters Incorporated, a 10-episode season that will, as I said, begin sometime in spring of 2021 on Disney+.
Observing the pattern.
It took far too long for someone to realise that someone had actually gotten up out of this mess and walked away.
Yes.
It seems to have taken a long time. Quite far into this episode, someone decided time to check video cameras instead of, straight away. Straight away would
Wait, didn't they say there was a problem with the video cameras, or I could be wrong about that? But that definitely did take a little bit long. And I felt like Walter and all them, they're a little bit above, typical copy cops. So I feel like they can totally determine that much faster.
Cinemortuary.
So they rock out, and what I really like is Dubois, the dog. Mm-hmm. He tags out Stevie with a guitar, not fully killing, just swipes the guitar across.
Shit cans in,
takes him out of the back of a car, fall over, and Harley in the audience to me something's wrong. They never harm anyone. He deserves it.
I'm sure he's all right, and he's just lying there
he'll be fine.
Check out all of these shows on the We Made This podcast network.
WeMadeThis.com